I can't believe I've been trying to record the same video for about 2 weeks now. Oh my god. Okay, hey everyone. It has been a really long time since my last video update. I think the last video I did was my 6-month update as well as my Q&A for the most commonly asked questions about my locks. And I'll leave a link somewhere on the screen if you're interested in watching that. And before that, I posted my very first TMI video. This is going to be the second in this series. I figured I'd do a couple of these just in case, well, more for posterity's sake, because I feel like after posting the very first video, I noticed a lot of YouTubers, they would do like one video and then they wouldn't talk about it anymore. But I feel like this is something that is going to be like an ongoing kind of series for me, even though it might not all be about like hormonal birth control or something. But these are like more of the personal videos I want to talk about. So it's going to be tagged as such. So if you have any issues about hearing about birth control, vaginas, menstruation, or, you know, anything like that, I suggest you click away from this video now and go check out my my locks video playlist, or my lock journey playlist, or any of my get ready with me videos or something like that, or like the one sewing tutorial I have up at the moment, because this video is going to get kind of, you know, in depth with what's been going on with me, and if you're not really interested in that, you've been warned. So for those of you who are actually interested in hearing about what's been going on since I came off of hormonal birth control on August 4th, this video kind of gets into those changes and what I've been experiencing since I stopped. So yeah, let me just break it down in case you haven't watched my last video. I had been on hormonal birth control for almost 4 years, and during that time I just noticed there were a lot of physical and emotional changes and stuff like that that as time went on, they just got to the point where I just couldn't deal with them anymore. Things like anxiety and like major mood swings and stuff like that, major loss of like libido and stuff like that. And the strange part was when I asked my doctor about the side effects and when I was looking for them online, the only thing that really came up was, you know, the basic Facebook profile of side effects, like, oh, you gain a little bit of weight, you might have some spotting for, you know, the first 2 or 3 months or something like that. You might notice that, you know, your breasts may get bigger or smaller or something like that. Really minor changes that, you know, wouldn't really be cause for any major concern, but for me, it didn't sit with me very well at all. After almost 4 years of being on hormonal birth control, I found out about something called the fertility awareness method, which is specifically the Sympto-Thermal method. I know there are a couple of different ones that I've been looking into just to kind of compare and get a little bit more information about. I'll probably leave links to a resource down in the description box below for anyone who's interested. And what the fertility awareness method is, it's a natural means of tracking your everyday fertility. It doesn't predict when ovulation happens, it doesn't predict when your period's going to show up or anything like that. It's just every day checking in with your body, your cervical fluid, your cervical position, and your basal body temperature, and just answering the question at the end of the day, am I fertile, yes or no? And you track it in whatever, you know, app you want to use. I use Kindara, and you just kind of move along with the rest of your day. And one of the first things I noticed, I think about 2 weeks after I stopped taking the pill, because the first week was the week where it would have been my withdrawal bleed, because when you're on the pill, you don't actually have a real period. It's actually just breakthrough bleeding, because what the pill I was on does is that it inhibits ovulation, and then, you know, after a month or so of not having anything happen, then there's breakthrough bleeding for an anovulatory cycle. There's a whole lot of information about this somewhere online, so I won't get into too much detail about it here. So that week of my withdrawal bleed pretty much felt, you know, the same as if I were on hormonal birth control, but what I noticed the week after that was that I had a whole lot more energy, and I mean, like, normally I would have come home after work, I would have fallen asleep for like 1 or 2 hours, gotten up, cooked, cleaned, dealt with whatever stuff I had to deal with, do my wifely duties around the house, and then go back to bed somewhere around 11, 11:30, feeling exhausted still. And then I wake up in the morning around 6:30 and start all over again, just with this fog of tiredness and exhaustion. And it got to the point where day to day it just kind of became a fact of life that I didn't have as much energy as I had before. So it wasn't like every day was me dragging around with like a weight on my whole body dragging me down. I can't get out of bed and stuff like that. But it just got very noticeable towards the end of the day, where I normally had like a reserve of energy for when I got home to kind of hang around and do stuff and chat with family members and do stuff like that. I didn't have that as much when I was on hormonal birth control. But once I came off it, I noticed that coming back and kind of progressively getting more and more energy, which is great. Another physical aspect that I noticed since coming off the hormonal birth control pill is that I sleep a lot better, and I sleep all the way through the night more often. Insomnia was a really big thing when I was on hormonal birth control, which I never really used to have trouble with before. I noticed when I was on the shot and the pill, I didn't dream as often, which is weird because I'm the type of person who's used to going to bed and having really interesting, wacky, off-the-wall, very, very realistic dreams. I've also noticed that I have a lot less nightmares now, but we'll see how that goes as time goes on. It's only been like a month and 2 weeks or something, so as time goes on, I'll be able to update you guys on that. And I notice when I sleep more comfortably, and I sleep almost all the way through the night without any issue. I don't have to get up and go pee or anything like that. I don't have like tossing and turning like a bunch of nights or anything like that. I think in the entire month and a half that I've been off birth control, I think I've had maybe 4 or 5 nights of insomnia, whereas while I was on the pill, every night would be a night where I was having trouble going to sleep. And I would have maybe out of like a 30, 45 day span, maybe 4 or 5 days of like really solid, deep, rejuvenative sleep. And I never really noticed that before until I actually came off hormonal birth control, that was an actual thing that was going on while I was actually on it. The next thing that I noticed, or a couple of things that I noticed, have to do with more of the emotional side of like coming off of hormonal birth control. When I was on it, I noticed that like my mood swings used to be more drastic and more sudden. Whenever I was in a stressful situation, I had a really hard time kind of like modulating myself and being able to, I guess, wait and then think and then respond to whatever it was that had me feeling all wound up. I started suffering from anxiety that was borderline depression sometimes, and other times it was just flat out depression. And for the longest time I thought it was just something that was going on with like the different work situations I was in, or like the different home life scenarios that were going on. But what I noticed was so different from before I went on the pill and after I went on it was, before I went on the pill, yeah, I would feel some type of way about something, but it would be more like, okay, I know, you know, whatever's happening there might be something else behind this or something like that that I'm not aware of that is affecting this person's decision to be this way. And I can normally talk myself out of being like upset for months about this one thing that happened, like someone cutting you off in traffic, rather than be like, oh, that was just rude, and kind of move on with your day, as opposed to, I don't know, wanting to chase them down in your car and knock your car into their car and have it spin into a tailspin off a cliff somewhere. Like, that was the drastic difference I noticed with my emotions, like, since coming off of it. Like, I'm able to sit and think more logically and reasonably about what it is I'm feeling in response to what is actually happening, so that I can have a better idea of how to respond to it. Some days I'm still not perfect about this. Every now and then I kind of, you know, want to fly off the handle, but I'm getting a better grip on my emotions now that I'm off hormonal birth control, if that makes a little bit more sense. So I feel a lot happier, I feel a lot more energized, I definitely feel a little bit more sociable with people nowadays. I don't feel anxious as often, and if I do, it's not as strongly as it was before. which is such a relief. It's such a relief, guys. I want you to understand that going through your day and having like this voice in the back of your head speak negative thoughts about you, what it is you're doing, or like your friends, or like your relationships that you have with them, having you second guess everything that you think and feel and like know, and all of that stuff is a really hard thing to deal with. And like, I never knew how significant something like that was until, you know, I actually experienced it and am able to like step away from it so that I can like kind of process and deal with what it is I'm going through a little bit better. So yeah, another thing that I've noticed, well, two other physical things. So another physical thing that I've noticed is that my acne has been acting up a whole lot, which you can probably see with like all the breakout scars on my cheeks. It's normally not this bad, but it was like this when I was in high school, and when you come off hormonal birth control, like your body's still leveling out and your hormone levels aren't exactly at, you know, optimal efficiency, so then your skin may break out and stuff like that. I even have a little bit of breakout across here, so it got pretty bad the first couple of weeks. Things seem to be leveling out a little bit, so now I can just kind of do a little bit of skin maintenance and just take care of things, drink a lot more water, like exfoliate my skin, and just kind of move towards like just evening out my skin tone, since the acne has calmed down a whole lot now than it was a couple of weeks ago, which is great because people already think that I'm not a 30-year-old woman who's married. They always think I'm like 19 or 17 or something like that. I'm tired of looking like a tiny child when I'm trying to do things like apply for a bank loan or, you know, ask for a promotion or something like that. So it'd be good to at least have people think that I'm 20 or something like that. I'd like to look a little bit more my age, and I'm not a huge fan of makeup to do that, since, you know, acne plus makeup equals clogged pores and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that a little bit, which is weird. Another, and the last and most significant physical thing that I've noticed is like the return of my sex drive, which I know is TMI, but this is a TMI vlog, people. I know all through like my teenage years, all through like my young adult life, I was a horny person. There's no other way to say it. I was horny 95% of the time. I was horny. Not to the point where it would distract me from like doing work or something like that, but if I had like a spare 20 or 30 minutes of me not doing anything, more than likely it was going to be in some kind of sexual fantasy or something like that. And yeah, when I went on hormonal birth control, it went from, ooh, I want sex, or oh, sex sounds so great right now, or you know what would be a really good stress reliever right now? Sex. That's exactly how my brain would go. And as soon as I went on hormonal birth control, it was kind of like, I guess I wouldn't mind having sex. Sex sounds like it could be interesting, but I'm not 100% sure that I'm interested right now. So it went from, man, that food looks really good, I can't wait to have some, or bite, I am starving, I want some of that food, to, I guess I could eat kind of thing. And like, it kind of snuck up on me, and I didn't even notice that was a thing until like I came off of hormonal birth control, and like the week after my withdrawal bleed, it's like I was sitting at my desk at work and I was doing something, and then a song came on that made me think of my husband, and then I was just horny like for the longest time that day. It was distracting as hell, because up until that point, it's like I didn't really have moments where I'm like, where I felt horny. It's like I would desire sex, but I wasn't horny, which is weird because normally the two go hand in hand for me. But, you know, to have that feeling come back was really weird and really distracting, but I was ecstatic. I was like, yes, welcome back. I missed you so bad. We're going to have so much fun reading these romance novels, because I'm the type of person with a very overactive imagination. So romance novels, when I read them and I think about the scenarios, like the really hot and steamy like moments and stuff like that, I like picture and I think and I imagine of all the wonderful things going on in it, and I'm right there like getting a physical reaction from it. And I noticed when I was on birth control I never really used to get that as much, but oh my goodness, book reading is going to be so much more interesting again. It's going to be nice. Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing that's been happening, and I'm so glad about that, and I know my husband's real glad about that. You know, probably gonna have to apologize at some point for, you know, my increased horniness, maybe. I don't know. Guys, let me know in the comments if you ever feel like your woman should apologize for just being so horny. I don't know. Is that a thing? Do guys ever get tired of their woman being horny? Let me know in the comments. I don't know. Yeah, that was a weird one to share. That was a really weird one to share. But we're friends here, right? We're friends here. You know, we can talk about this stuff here, and you won't judge me too harshly, will you? Hopefully not. Okay. So, right. Just to kind of overview the things that I've been using in the meantime. Actually, let me get that stuff now. So yeah, so in order to do the fertility awareness method, I had to do my research, and a lot of people online recommended this book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Tony Weschler. This is the fully revised 20th anniversary edition, and it has a whole extra 6 chapters in it that deals with like sexuality, libido, PCOS, endometriosis, all of that stuff is outlined in here so that it has like a basic understanding of everything you need to do, everything. So this book was recommended by so many people online, and it is basically the Bible of the basics of the fertility awareness method, specifically the Sympto-Thermal method. And there's a couple other ones. I'm probably going to look into another one called the Justice method next, just to see what the differences are about that. But I really like this book. It's really comprehensive. It taught me a whole lot when it came to tracking cervical mucus, the different changes and stuff like that, the difference between like a regular thermometer and a basal body thermometer and stuff like that, and why it's so important to track multiple, I guess, fertility signs just for the sake of accuracy, which is really important, and it goes over the rules in great detail. So if you're looking into just having a resource of how everything works, this is a good book to start with. It's a bit long. I did not read every single thing in it. I basically went over the sections that was most pertinent to me at the beginning, which were the chapters about learning the rules, tracking your cervical position and fluids, and the basics of basal body temperature. And then once I got those basics down, then I've kind of been reading bits and pieces of the book. It's really comprehensive, really great, and I recommend that anyone who's even curious about the method, even if it's not for birth control purposes, if you're just curious, really good resource on Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the description box for those of you who are interested. Another thing I've been using, which, you know, everyone kind of recommended, was getting a basal body thermometer. This is the one I'm using. Really, really simple. Way it works, stick it under your tongue, press the button, it takes your temperature, you chart it. I tend to take my temperature around 4 o'clock, between 4 o'clock and 4:30. Sometimes I might wake up a little bit earlier than that, like 5 to 10 minutes before my alarm goes off, because my body kind of gotten used to it. So I set my alarm to just take my temperature. I take my temperature, it beeps to let me know it's done. I turn it off, I go back to sleep. And then the way this thermometer, I think it's the Mavis basal body thermometer, I'll leave a link to that down below as well. It holds your previous temperature from the last time you used it. So where I would turn it off, go to sleep, and then I wake up in the morning, and then I just turn on my thermometer real quick, look at the initial reading of what it was the last time I taken my temperature, and then if I had it, if I wanted to take my temperature, I'd stick it under my tongue, and it would start recording my new temperature. So it's really been handy, the fact that I don't have to like wake up all the way, chart my temperature, and then go back to sleep kind of thing. The only thing I would say that I've noticed is that the temperature in my room does affect my basal body temperature significantly. So I'm having to learn to deal with those fluctuations. Because if you have like temperatures that are really low or really high, then it'll kind of skew your chart kind of thing. And that's not good. The final thing that I've been using for, you know, the fertility awareness method is an app called Kindara. Let me see if I can get it open on my tablet here. It's actually for Android and iPhone. I downloaded it for my Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 tablet. It's not actually compatible with the Samsung Galaxy Tab, so what I did was I sideloaded the APK onto my tablet. So basically how it looks, this is the month-long view. So you get the calendar view, and then you have the daily entry fields where you can have all of this information put in, and you can kind of journal in here and make notations, and then you have the custom data fields for things that you want to track. That's basically like if you notice that your acne kind of shows up on certain days, or if you notice you have an acne breakout, you can chart that for that day. If you notice that you have breast tenderness, you can chart that for that day. And what it does is when you go to your overall chart, which I'm going to show you here, if you can see that properly, I think you can. Hold on. Right. Is that, hold on. Turn on autofocus real quick. Okay, so when you have your data information on your screen, you can see that you have your temperatures on your chart, and then over here you have the different variations for your cervical fluid, and then down here at the bottom you see like the cervical position and stuff like that and spotting, and as you go down you have this nice little dot chart showing all of the different symptoms that you experience throughout your cycle, which I think is really useful and really great, because what I've noticed since doing this is that, well, I've always known that the week before my period shows up, I get a lot of breast tenderness. I did not know that my anxiety tends to flare up more towards my period, like a couple of days before my period, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on that and stuff like that. I've also found that, you know, that insomnia really does affect my temperatures. Like sometimes it's to the point where it's either super high or it's super low, and whenever I have a questionable temperature or something like that, I would make a note, okay, I turned over really strangely before taking my temperature, or all of my bedroom windows were open and 2 fans were on, so my temperature seemed really lower than normal, like to the point where it was like 96.2 or something like that, which is a really, really low temperature, which is really unusual. So I was like, nope, that can't be right. So accuracy is key when it comes to charting, and if you're not sure, just consider that a fertile day is the rule of thumb. So yeah, I have used other apps aside from Kindara. Kindara has a nice community base to it where people post their charts and get like a second opinion, I guess, if they aren't entirely sure when their peak day is, when their thermal shift is, or something like that. And it's really helped speed up the learning process for me to be able to see all of these variations in real time. Like, it allows me to learn a whole lot more intuitively, kind of thing, because I'm a very visual person, seeing all of the different variations of different charts, like from people who are pregnant, people who have just had a baby, people who are postpartum, kind of thing, and it just kind of gives you a better idea of what to expect as your cycle moves on. One thing that I'm really glad about, and I feel really blessed for, is the fact that there are so many women who have been on hormonal birth control for about the same time I have, and their initial cycle post-pill, or post-shot, or post-hormonal birth control is like 50 days, 7 days, 95 days without seeing a period, and everything's all over the place, and they don't know what the hell is going on. And mine was right back to normal. I think my last period just had spotting longer than normal, but everything else has been fine. And I am so glad. I've never been so happy to see my period in my life, which is so weird. And this whole experience has just been giving me like a new appreciation of my body and helping me understand what my body needs at different points in my cycle. Like since last month and this month, like since I started charting, I've noticed that my energy levels do get a little bit lower just before my period. So it's like, okay, I feel more tired. It's okay for me to rest. my body needs more rest during this time of this part of my cycle, so I'm just going to take it easy, or I'm going to try to go to bed earlier, or maybe I'm just going to like not push myself quite as hard physically and be able to do all the things I need to do later on. Like I'm trying to be more gentle with my body during that time. So it's been a great learning experience, and this video is really long, and I think that's everything I wanted to talk about this video. I think my next video might be an update and talking about the different charting apps I had tried to use, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you if you made it all the way to the end of my video. Thank you to all my awesome subscribers for hanging out with me this long. To those of you who are new here, hi! I've been talking about my vagina for the past almost half an hour. So yeah, if you're not too weirded out by that and you want to continue on with me in my journey, I also have walk videos. I'm planning on doing more tutorials in the future. So if you feel like hanging around long enough to see any of those videos, make sure to subscribe down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.